The neighbour guilty of murder over a row about rubbish. Jamie Barrow killed a mother and her 2 young children by pouring petrol through their letterbox, causing a fire at their flat in Nottingham.
His actions were utterly heartless and cruel and have caused a multi-generational trauma that we will never understand.
Also ahead, more mortgage misery as fixed rates rise, as the big banks are summoned to explain why they are not passing on higher rates to savers. Thames Water fined £3.3 million for polluting rivers with sewage. Are these Scottish islands going Scandi? Orkney Council explores returning to Nordic rule. And
I'm looking forward to this.
the Biker Grove reboot, it's coming back thanks to its biggest stars.
Bringing it back for a whole new audience, as well as those of us who are old enough to remember it so fondly.
That's obviously a show very close to our hearts, the show which gave us our breaks.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Nina Hossain.
Good afternoon. A man who torched his neighbour's flat, killing a mother and her 2 children, has been found guilty of murder. Jamie Barrow set fire to the flat in Nottingham last November, killing Fatoumata Haidara and her 2 daughters, who were aged 3 and 1. Her family said today if love and compassion could make a person immortal, she would have lived forever, and that her killer had caused a multi-generational trauma. Prosecutors told the trial that Barrow had a grievance over rubbish being left in an alleyway and that he watched the fire take hold while ignoring screams coming from inside. From Nottingham Crown Court, here's our Midlands correspondent, Ben Chapman.
1-year-old Nima and her 3-year-old sister Fatima. 2 happy little girls who, together with their mother, Fatoumata Haidara, were about to embark on a new life in America with their father. He'd been away working last November, returning to the family's flat after being told his wife and daughters had been killed in a devastating fire, started deliberately by their neighbour.
Words cannot quantify how much our family have suffered because of the horrific actions of one man. Neither can we quantify the emotional, psychological, physiological and the financial impact of the crime committed against Fatoumata Haidara, Fatima Salma Drame, Naima Drame.
The emergency services had arrived that night in a street illuminated by orange flame and filled with smoke. The fire had been started by Jamie Barrow, who afterwards was more concerned about getting back into his flat.
Yeah, can I have my pin and get some waterproof gear?
I wouldn't, mate, to be honest.
Is it that bad?
He knew very well how bad it was because he'd poured petrol through the letterbox and set it alight. He also knew that this door was the only way out of the flat. CCTV shows how quickly the flames took hold, the gardens lighting up as the flat caught fire. Barrow was filmed walking away, claiming later he thought the flat was empty and that he'd started the fire to relieve stress. He denied that he held a grudge against the family over rubbish bags left in an alleyway. Those living in the street say they'll never forget the horror that unfolded that night.
Flames coming through the windows and all the smoke everywhere, and you know, there's no way they could have got out.
At this point in time, I'm going to place you under arrest for murder.
Barrow was arrested after handing himself in. He admitted manslaughter but denied murder. But his actions robbed a mother and 2 girls of a future and a father of a family.
Ben, an extremely difficult day in court for the family.
Yes, and very emotional in court too. There were lots of family members in court for the verdict, as they have been throughout this trial, and then they came out here and stood behind Abu Bakr Drama, the father and husband of the victims, as he read out that very emotional statement, describing his wife Fatoumata Haidara as a caring daughter, wife, sister, mother and friend. If love could make a person immortal, he said, she would have lived forever. And he described her as an incredible mother to her two little girls, two angels, he said, who described them as who said they deserved a beautiful childhood and a full life. He said that the family could never understand the trauma that has been caused, and indeed we don't know exactly why Jamie Barrow set fire to this flat. A number of theories put forward in court, but he's been found guilty of murder and he will be sentenced on Friday.
Ben Chapman, thank you. At least 7 people have been hurt after a Palestinian man rammed his car into pedestrians in Tel Aviv. The Islamist militant group Hamas has praised the attack as a response to Israel's military operation in Jenin in the West Bank. The driver was shot and killed at the scene. The death toll from yesterday's military raid of the refugee camp has risen to 10, with thousands of residents trying to flee to safety. It is the most intense military operation in the West Bank in 2 decades. If you're about to come off a fixed-rate mortgage, you might want to look away now. The average 5-year fixed-rate deal has today jumped over 6%. While the financial watchdog tells the financial watchdog tells the bosses of the big banks to come and explain why they are not passing on the rises to their savers. Our political correspondent Libby Vina has the latest.
4 big banks said to be making very big profits, putting up interest rates for borrowers, but not doing the same for savers. Now the Financial Conduct Authority wants to know why, and MPs say the banks must do more.
Well, we think they've been very measly to those who are fortunate enough to have some savings. Every time the Bank of England's raised rates, they've hiked mortgage rates at the banks, but the banks haven't really passed on the benefit of higher rates to those who have savings.
They are profiteering, in other words. Is that your view?
We think they are potentially taking advantage of some of their most loyal customers.
After 13 consecutive increases, the UK's base rate is currently 5%, with mortgage rates now even higher, while data shows that the average easy access savings rate is only around 2.4%. Labour say crucially raising rates for savers would also help bring down inflation.
When the Bank of England raises interest rates, partly it intends to make mortgages more expensive, but it also wants to make saving more attractive. Well, the second thing there isn't going to happen if the banks are not passing on those interest rate rises to savers. So there's a policy reason as well as a fairness reason.
Meanwhile, savers are being advised to be more proactive and shop around for better rates.
Unfortunately, legislation or regulation to get them to put their rates up is very difficult. But I think that the pressure needs to come on from the political side. But we too, we consumers, if you're earning less than 4% in your savings account and you're free to move, ditch and switch, punish them in their pockets by taking away your custom.
But the political pressure is ramping up, and pressure from the regulator, which will discuss what's going on with the banks later this week. Libby Vina, ITV News, Westminster.
Thames Water has been fined £3.3 million for pumping millions of litres of undiluted sewage into rivers near Gatwick. The pollution was so bad the waters turned black and killed more than 1,000 fish. The judge at Lewis Crown Court said she believed Thames Water had shown a deliberate attempt to mislead the Environment Agency over the incident. Our correspondent Rachel Younger has been following this and joins me now. Not a huge sum for such a big company.
No, that's true, but I think there really are 2 big problems for Thames Waters here. First, it's yet another episode of pollution that should never have happened. And if you look back at the pictures from 2017, which is when the spill of millions of litres of untreated sewage occurred, you can see that there were thousands of dead fish there in both the Gatwick stream and the River Mole. Now, it's worth adding that since 2017, Thames Water have racked up more than £30 million in fines for similar incidents. But secondly, and frankly, just as serious, I think, for the company, is the way the court heard they tried to evade responsibility when the Environment Agency explored what had happened by omitting water readings from their report and telling the agency that they weren't at fault for what had happened. Now, I think that lack of care adds to the admission from the company's outgoing chief executive, who resigned last week, that there have been decades of aggressive cost-cutting and underinvestment. Now, that is not a good look when you set it against such a woeful environmental performance. And I think there is now increasing pressure on companies like this, particularly Thames Water, which, despite its huge debts, has made hundreds of millions of pounds in profits, to do something about this when we're seeing increasing pollution in our rivers and seas.
Rachel Younger, thank you very much. Thank you. Next, this lunchtime, puppy yoga is a favourite among some influencers and celebrities, but there are calls for it to be regulated or even banned after an undercover investigation by ITV News revealed it may be causing serious harm to dogs. Responding to the findings, the chair of the parliamentary committee that scrutinises animal welfare laws has told our investigations correspondent Daniel Hewitt it shouldn't be happening at all.
At puppy yoga classes, punters pay up to £40 for the benefit of 1 hour sessions with very small, very young dogs. But our undercover cameras found very little benefit for the puppies themselves. Far from it. Placed in very warm rooms, we found some being deprived of water.
Do they have any water right there? Do they have water?
No. Might be with people.
Yeah.
And removed from their mother just a few weeks into their life.
How old were they when they started doing the yoga?
They've been coming yoga since they were 6.5 weeks old.
The RSPCA and the Kennel Club condemned our findings, with tired dogs being mishandled and dropped and deprived of sleep, constantly woken up despite taking themselves into the corner of the room. They want puppy yoga banned, and now so too does the chair of Parliament's DEFRA committee, which monitors animal welfare.
These puppies are being exploited. You know, there was no evidence in the film that the animals were enjoying the contact with people, that they were trying to hide in the corner to get away from people, but they kept being brought back. You know, it isn't that we need to change the law. It is already against the law to be cruel to animals, and I believe this is cruelty.
What's your message to the people that run these classes?
Stop doing it. Quite simply, stop doing it.
Puppy yoga has become big business and a big hit on social media with celebrities and influencers. But this former Love Island contestant and dog campaigner says it has to stop.
I feel like, didn't we ban animals in circuses like years and years and years ago, decades ago? So why are we using dogs for yoga? If you want to go and see a puppy, go to the RSPCA, go and help out, go to the guide dogs and help out there. Like, there's so many options if you want to go spend time with puppies. But they're not a fashion accessory.
None of the puppy yoga companies we filmed have responded to our requests for comment. This afternoon, an MP's inquiry will discuss the issue of pet welfare, with serious concerns over whether this latest craze can continue. Daniel Hewitt, ITV News.
And you can see Daniel's full investigation on our website. Search itv.com/news. To the latest on the Kevin Spacey trial now. The Oscar-winning actor is on trial in London, accused of 12 charges relating to sexual offences against 4 men. He denies the charges. Today, the jury was shown the police interview from the second man he is alleged to have abused. Our reporter Chloe Keedy is at Southwark Crown Court. What did the trial hear so far today, Chloe?
Well, in that video, which was shown to the jury just before lunch, a man who can't be named for legal reasons said that Kevin Spacey assaulted him at a party in the Cotswolds in 2013. He is the second of 4 men that Kevin Spacey is accused of sexually assaulting between 2001 and 2013. And he told the court that he met Mr. Spacey in a pub and that the actor spent the evening with him and his friends, drinking and chatting, before inviting them back to the house he was staying in to carry on the party. And he said it was while he was there that he accidentally let the actor's dog out of the room it was shut in. And he said when he turned around, Kevin Spacey was standing behind him. He said he came towards me in a huggy motion and said, "Don't worry about it," before giving him what he described as an awkward man hug. At that point, he said, he kissed my neck twice and grabbed my crotch and said the words, "Be cool, be cool." Well, he told the jury that he pushed Kevin Spacey away against a wall and said, "I'm sorry, man, I don't bat for that team." And he said Mr. Spacey had a panicked look on his face and left. He said what happened had left him shaken and that he didn't think he would be believed. Kevin Spacey denies all the charges against him.
Chloe Keedy, thank you. Next, the Scottish Islands that could be going back to its past in the future and come under Nordic rule once again. The Orkney Islands Council has just passed a motion to explore other options about how the islands are run. Orkney was under Norwegian and Danish control until 1472 and changed hands as part of a wedding dowry. Charlie Frost has the story.
A gem in the North Sea, the Orkney Islands are rich in beauty, but the Scottish-owned Isles say their coffers are empty and being part of the United Kingdom is leaving them shortchanged.
If we don't get help from our governments, where do we look?
Earlier, the island's councillors debated breaking away, voting in favour of exploring its options, like becoming a Crown dependency like the Channel Islands, Jersey and Guernsey.
I say it is time for government to take us seriously, and I say it's time for us to look at all the options we've got.
One of those options could be reconnecting with its historical roots. An archipelago located north of the tip of Scotland, Orkney was under Norwegian and Danish control until 1472, given to King James III of Scotland as part of his wife Margaret of Denmark's dowry. But not every islander is keen to change allegiance.
I think it's a very drastic move to consider going in with another country or another island group.
I'm not convinced that we can stand alone.
Open to seeing what the benefits might be to Orkney and kind of seeing the economic argument for that.
Despite the vote, constitutional change wouldn't happen quickly, and the UK government said, "We are stronger as one United Kingdom. We have no plans to change that." But the Orkney Islands, well, they may do, and they're now forming a working group to try to figure out their future. Charlie Frost, ITV News.
Murray Mound will be packed later this afternoon as the British Grand Slam winner steps out onto centre court a decade on from when he first won Wimbledon. On the other side of the net to Andy, another Brit, Ryan Peniston, the British #7, who fondly remembers watching that historic victory. But who will win today? Martha Fairley is there. Martha, the battle of the Brits later, but the pressure will be on both of them for different reasons.
Absolutely. Sir Andy Murray, 2 times Wimbledon champion, says he still considers himself one of the best grass court players in the world. And despite crashing out of Queen's in the first round 2 weeks ago, he says he feels physically good and there's no reason why he can't have a good tournament. Now, facing him on court will be Ryan Peniston, a 27-year-old from Essex who's only in his 2nd Wimbledon main draw. He's a left-handed player, something that Murray acknowledges he's going to have to watch out for on the court, but they know each other very well. They've practiced a lot together in the past. Now, the match looks likely to be taking place under a closed roof on centre court because rain has stopped play for a 2nd day here in Wimbledon and the forecast isn't great. Matches on other courts look doubtful for the rest of the day now, which will be incredibly disappointing for those who have been waiting for tickets in that long queue once again.
Been here since 8 a.m, so not as long as some people, but a little while. So I'm trying to learn how to juggle, and we've got a poll going on Instagram. Can I learn how to juggle before we get to the end of the queue?
Well, Andy Murray's on centre court. I wanted to watch him, but I think I'm going to miss that, being in the queue.
Cameron Norrie, he's a pretty good lefty that I would like to watch because I'm also a lefty.
Well, the Princess of Wales was watching Katie Boulter on court 18 when rain stopped play. Other Brits still waiting to get on court include Dan Evans, Heather Watson and Cam Norrie, who will get underway under a closed roof on #1 court.
Martha, thank you. Finally, Biker Grove is coming back. The hit show set in Newcastle that catapulted Ant and Dec to stardom in the 90s is being given a reboot by the famous duo. So will we soon find out what became of the characters PJ and Duncan? Sally Biddulph reports.
A familiar sound of childhood for many. Biker Grove was the TV programme to watch after school in the 90s. And now it's back.
Is that 17 years after it closed its doors for the final time, Biker Grove is opening them up again.
Yes! We've teamed up with the clever telly people at Fulwell 73 to work on a reboot of the 90s TV classic, bringing it back for a whole new audience, as well as those of us who are old enough to remember it so fondly.
The twist is that its biggest stars, Ant and Dec, will be behind the cameras as producers, making way for a new slice of North East talent.
I need to know what's going on here. We're all still just mates, aren't we?
For former co-stars like Holly Matthews, who played Emma Miller, today's news is canny.
It's a big deal, and it always was, and not just from the perspective of putting Newcastle and the North East on the map. It also brings work there, it brings opportunity for young actors and entertainers, and that's exciting.
A generation of kids grew up with Biker Grove, loyal fans through 18 seasons from 1989. Set in a youth club in Biker in Newcastle, it tackled all the big teenage issues of the time, along with high drama when PJ was blinded in a paintballing accident. The winning formula remains the same, but Ant and Dec, aka PJ and Duncan, are keen to put their stamp on it.
I wonder where PJ and Duncan are nowadays and if they'll pop into the Grove on their way past.
I wouldn't have thought so. I reckon PJ now, right, is performing at Wembley Stadium with his platinum-selling rap album. PJ.
As you can probably tell, storyline development is at a very early stage.
Yeah.
So best get ready to rumble as we wait to hear when filming begins. Sally Biddulph, ITV News.
That's all we've got time for so far today from everybody on today's Lunchtime team and from me. Bye-bye.